Hi, I'm attorney Vincent Davis, and I've been fighting CPS for over 35 years. Through my years of experience, I've gained invaluable insights that I'm ready to share with you. If you're a parent or a caregiver or a relative, we need to talk. I'm offering a new opportunity for you to speak with me on a one-on-one basis. Ask me any questions, and I'll provide you with the insight you need to take steps in your CPS case. Members get everything they need to gain confidence and the knowledge that they need to support necessary to truly fight back. And as a special thank you for attending, I have a special offer just for you. Don't miss out, join us, and let's take that next step together. I'll see you at the question and answer event.
Okay, I think we are live. Hello, everyone, and good evening. This is Deidre with Are You a CPS Victim Like Me? I am going to have a new host with me along for every show, and I'm sure you all are familiar with her, as in she's been on Mr. Davis's platform before under all the different hosts, and her name is
Yes.
Akima Richardson. And we did have a guest scheduled for tonight to come on, but she looks like she might be having technical difficulties, so she might pop in here in the next few moments. But if not, we're going to go with Plan B and kind of talk about the subject of parental rights and how you are affected with your case in that matter. And Akima is going to introduce herself and a little bit about her background because she's very knowledgeable in this as well, and she'll probably go forward with our topic unless our guest comes in. So, Akima, if you want to introduce yourself.
Hi, good evening, everybody. My name is Akima Richardson. I like to be called KK. And like Deidre said, I've been on various platforms of Mr. Davis's shows. And my case is a very complex one. It deals with on and off 10-year history with mental health issues, substance abuse history issues, and, medical issues, as of right now. There are a lot of things that have been neglected as far as me trying to reunify, but there has been a lot of malice, restriction, and like parental alienation and a lot of custodial interference, especially when it comes to the parenting time. And um, parental rights are our most sacred possession other than our children. And I feel like, at the end of the day, people that provide a service that are supposed to protect our children when they are not in our care or removed from our care based on certain allegations or stories or, just overall deception and malice because people don't like you or, because you have a history, you're getting biased or, just discriminated upon. And, I took my downfalls and I became an attorney. So for a lot of people out there, they assume that, that was a story, another lie, or no. My on and off history for the last 10 years has made me extremely motivated to be knowledgeable of this corrupt system. And I feel like at the end of the day, I I am basically one of those people that I'm supposed to pass the message along. So I feel like, if we as a parental unit, if we all stick together and we all fight together as a unit, a lot of things can change. It takes one voice, but it takes a bigger stand. So I just feel like, it's not always the moms. We have some great dads out there too. So I want to give them recognition too. So, they fight for their rights too, and they are definitely, definitely biased and discriminated upon more than you know without history. So, it's a flawed system on both sides. So, I just hope and pray that, everything that we as parents are fighting for can, eventually and very, very rapidly make some change.
Why don't you talk a little bit about the fact that you have a background as an attorney yourself, and unfortunately, there's, I guess, ways that they prevented you to use your own attorney, I guess, privileges because you have your own case. But maybe with your knowledge, explain, like in my situation, my two older kids were with my mom legal guardianship, so therefore I didn't lose my parental rights. But what does that necessarily get me still as far as being involved in my kid's life, and what rights do I still technically have in that matter? Maybe you can explain
Well,
more on.
I'm not exactly well versed, but from my knowledge, just answering as, representation in New York, you can still, I mean, based on the legal guardianship, there are some things that you can still have access to when it comes in regards to your children. As far as the rights that have been terminated for your youngest child, I would have to, refer more, into
No,
legal
yeah.
procedure
But
and
I think, remember
details,
we
so I can
mentioned
get back to you.
the
Yes.
educational and medical, you said, I think.
Yes, as far as that with your children that have your mom that has a legal guardianship, if you were in New York, then yes, there were certain things that you would be able to be privy to or have so sorry, or collateral or have, input on those things depending on what type of access the legal guardianship in your state would allow.
Makes sense. So with our topic, parental rights, I'm not sure if anybody is actually watching live right now, but there's also the option of chiming in with making comments or questions in the live chat. And again, we are not, well, I'm not an attorney. And so anything that we talk
As a
about
matter of
is
fact, we
really
couldn't have an attorney either.
exactly. So we are just, mothers that are obviously going through the system and fighting this. And hopefully one day we'll come to an end. But in the meantime, I like to keep doing the fight as far as doing these shows, because I feel like the biggest downfall in CPS as a whole, I think, is just parents not knowing anything and being so naive to the system. Because, like myself, I always thought that CPS was out there for the good and to protect children, and not too far into my cases when I came across Mr. Davis and started to really find out what everything is and everything is about. And I just think that if there was a way that we could get all of this knowledge out to the parents in the beginning of their cases, because again, like Mr. Davis has mentioned several times on his shows, that it's all, broken down into modules. And it's like once one of those passes and you don't do anything about it as far as appealing it, it's kind of like that's done, it's over with now. And so if we could get this knowledge out to parents sooner than later, then, hopefully maybe we could prevent more or less of the longevity and, hopefully the termination of the rights or the adopting out or all that kind of stuff. But again, it's just sad because you think that we're in a world where this wouldn't be what it is. But unfortunately, like me and Akima have found out, it is what it is, and it's just very unfortunate. So again, if you want to ever come on the show, we do these shows now every Wednesday at 5 p.m. Pacific time, 8 p.m. Eastern time, and you can always call the number at the bottom to get scheduled with our producer Grace. But in the meantime, I think we're just going to continue doing this show since our guest looks like they might not be making
Not
it
coming
with.
back on, right?
Yeah, it's okay though. We had her in the beginning and then we waited to start till exactly 5, and then I think she didn't know how to get back on. So maybe we can
It's
have her next
fine.
week.
There's always another day. But I mean, with aspects to, as far as my case, I'm in the middle of fact finding trial and I'm testifying as of right now. So there's not too much I can say about that. But prior
Mhm.
to my testimony, there were a lot of things that, the foster care agency that's within the CPS stature has neglected to honor as far as my rights, whether they be parental or civil. They've, ignored the parenting plan. They've ignored, I want to say, verifying information on clinicians or therapeutic and psychotropic medication prescribed to the children without my, authorization. You know, things that have happened where the children were injured and I was notified days later, or, I had to stumble upon information for them to even admit their fault. And then it was, just like a smooth over. Well, can we get past that? Like, it wasn't important enough to actually go into detail on why they neglected to do their part as mandated reporters or as people that are supposed to provide, safety, places and basic health and wellness for the best interest of the child. So I don't understand why these agencies are constantly allowed to be neglectful and nobody has to take any type of reprimand or consequence for it. It's just a slap on the wrist. and just moving forward. But with us, you restrict all of our interaction, all communication, and then based on this, federal FAFSA timeline, that you can just rip our children from us and just tear that bond, or just separate us based on a check. That's
Mhm.
basically what it is. Our children are dollar signs.
And they always want to make it seem like they're doing everything in the best interest of the child, but it's like in reality, they're doing the worst by what they're doing as far as ripping them away from their only known home and family members and putting them in a complete. I mean, they always say, even as an adult, I wouldn't even know how I could go and be placed in a stranger's home with strangers as like my caregivers as an adult. I can imagine as like a young child and
Right.
not even knowing like where their parents are if they're real young and wondering what the heck is going on type of thing. But again, they always want to fight that they're doing the best interest of the child, but in reality, it's like, and then if the children do end up getting adopted out in those, sad situations, Mr. Davis has always said too, we never really follow back up and see exactly how the children are doing. It's like, okay,
Right.
they're adopted and it's done and it's over with. But no, really, that's like when a lot of the trauma really then comes to the forefront. It's like because then nobody's really like watching them, so to speak. And these kids just fall apart from the seams and it's horrible, I feel like.
I just feel like, I'm like, I don't know what's going on with my glasses today, but I'm like, with my situation, my children were kind of like brainwashed in a sense, because if I listen to the conversations that we were having in the beginning, prior to the glamour and the glitz, all the toys and the phones and the jewelry and all the things that came into play, and it made it seem like my children didn't have those things when they were at home. So it made me feel like, well, what am I, chopped liver? But then I have to look
Mhm.
at it as, this is what they do to sever the bond, or try to, you know, basically destabilize the children enough to the point where they make you the martyr. So as long as they can keep the communication restricted and limited, they can show that there's no bond, or they can show that, I guess, abandonment, or whatever they want to categorize it as, whatever word they decide to use, because they make up some type of vocabulary when they write these things out. So I mean, honestly, you can't really say it's not a lack of knowledge. I mean, that plays a big part, but it also has to do with resistance and just utter malice, utter just coercion, and just bitterness for whatever reason. I have no idea, but it's unfair to a lot of parents and children, especially to the children, because like you said, if they're taking a child from the only place that they know, placing them with strangers, and then either bribing them or abusing them, it's like a win. It's like a catch-22 type of thing.
I have to say something and interrupt you real quick. This is really ironic that right when I'm doing this show, not only did my mom just text me and ask me, am I still coming next weekend to see the kids? But now my kids have called me 6 times in a row. And it's only 5:15 my time, and they know that I call them every night at 7:30. So I'm like yelling at my husband in the background, like, go call the kids because they keep calling.
Wow.
But I'm thinking, what are the chances of that? They've never called at this time. I never call them at this time. But it's almost like I'm doing this show now, and it's like I wonder if their ears were ringing. That was just
Right.
so. Whew,
Well, that's a
I don't
good
know. Little
thing.
things like that bring me joy, I guess.
Of course, any
But
mode of communication should. Anytime you get to communicate. See, I haven't been able to communicate since April 23rd, so
not whatsoever. Nothing.
nothing. They're not allowed to, I'm not allowed to
Oh,
have any communication whatsoever. I spoke to my daughter for like 3 seconds to say congratulations when she graduated, and I was told I violated the court order, and I didn't even know that this person was like, "Hey, look who I found," and he showed me on his phone on a WhatsApp.
oh wow.
But that also kind of showed that the children's lawyer had made a statement about, every time I have a visit with my children, they require therapeutic intervention afterwards. So I mean,
It's
in this
because they
situation,
miss you.
even though I violated the court order, so they say, by the 3 minutes of saying congratulations, I definitely proved that she didn't need therapeutic intervention, and she wouldn't have a seafood feast. So there was no psyche valve during that interaction.
Yeah. But so, like, with you going through the fact finding right now and where you're at in your case, there's been no like talk about you possibly still getting to have visitation or some kind of communication with your kids in the meantime?
Well, the children are upset with me. They don't want to have visits. They don't want to talk to me, according to their attorney. Like I said, I haven't spoken to my children since April 23rd. That was the last physical visit. And we were supposed to have a visit on May 7th. They confirmed on May 6th, three times from three different case planners and social workers within the foster care agency. And then approximately 37 minutes before my visit on May 7th, the visits were suspended by the manager without a court order prior to 2 days prior to getting an order to show cause. So they suspended my visits illegally because the foster parent did not take my child to the doctor because she didn't have a vehicle.
Wait, so they were able to cancel the visits without having it be court order?
They did, but technically that's illegal. And they did it 2 days, like I said, 2 days before the order to show cause was heard. Ultimately, the visits, yes, were suspended based on false allegations and perjury. But that's for another court. But that'll be definitely reprimanded because, in New York City, you're allowed to record
Yeah,
as long
you
as
told
one
me
person
that.
is privy to the conversation. That would be me. So,
Hmm.
all the things that they have claimed that I've done or claimed to have not, I guess, conformed to or what's the word, compromise with. I've been very, very compliant with everything. I have humbled myself a lot when it comes to my impulse control. And a lot of the times it's like my humbleness, makes it seem like, I am very passive. And most of the time they confuse my passion with aggression and go off to the forefront with it. So
Did you see that somebody commented from YouTube? I don't know what they mean by that. All things come to an end. Do you know who that person is? Freeman?
no,
I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, Freeman, but maybe you want to. Um,
elaborate.
oh, somebody said hi to you. I don't. Real Gino Natalia?
Oh, she's from Natalie. Hi Nat.
Okay. Mhm. I'm like, oh, I can see the comments. That's cool.
See, told you.
I know. I was going to say something too about your case, and then I forgot. Oh, but I know that we talked about this before, but isn't it something that they could technically use against you if, like, let's say they cut your visits and enough time goes by, like 6 months? Can't they use like the
Like
abandonment
abandonment.
thing against you? So do you think that that will ever be something you have to worry about?
I mean, anything is possible, especially with my case. Anything that can happen will happen. But I always
Mhm.
prepare for the worst and just hope for the best because even though I try to stay 2 steps ahead, there's always something in that gray area that just sneaks up, and you have to be ready for that too. So, just make sure you don't put all
But
your
maybe
chips.
you can explain a little bit to our guests about where you are, like fact finding, and like what does that mean? I know it's in New York, so it'll be different for every state, but what necessarily happens like next as far as like I guess after the fact
The
finding, like
steps.
what will
Well,
happen?
as of right now, it's my turn to testify. So, based on the petition stating that it was inadequate supervision or mental instability, they have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that I am a danger to my children as of right now, and that doesn't
Hmm.
seem to be any facts that they can find as of right now. So, it's kind of it's on the fence as of right now. But like I said, I was not feeling well today, so I did not appear to, continue my testimony. But it has been adjourned until December, so we'll deal with that when it comes in. But as of right now, there's just still neglectful things that this agency still has continued to do, even up until today. Even though they were apologetic, it's still something that is constantly done until it is brought into the light. Nobody acknowledges the mistake, or there's no reprimand or consequence for anything neglectful or unlawful or contemptful that these people keep just keep putting into the air and not just answering. 1 second, DJ, I'm sorry. Sorry, Deidre. Sorry, I had technical difficulties. I'm sorry, guys. I don't know what happened to our host, but as I was saying with the fact finding, they're supposed to have certain amount of evidence and discovery that, basically makes those allegations, supportable. So, those allegations to be, true. My job is to make sure that these allegations are, are not credible or are not true based on the information that, I have myself, my attorney has obtained, as well as, the delivered service logs. So those are, just the notes that each social worker would have if things, if things were to go to a higher court, you would be able to have definite, total access to all those things. But those also play a big part in, you trying to navigate your case in a positive way, for the best interest of your child, especially on your side. So I was just basically giving them an outline, Deidre, of the fact finding process up here in New York.
Sounds good. I don't know if anybody has any questions or comments based off of what we talked about so far this evening, but again, like I said, we were supposed to have a guest on, so that kind of threw us
She
for a
did
last
try to
minute
sign on
change.
again. I don't know.
Oh, okay. She still is trying to?
She said she's still trying to get in. That's who was calling me. I'm like, oh, well, sign on. She's like, she's trying to. I'm like,
Well, Grace would be able to get the thing if she is. Here, I talked about this stupid light thing that I got from Target, the holder for your phone that has the thing around it,
right.
and it is just not working for me. So I had to move to a different area, and now the thing is totally. I'm like, Grace is probably thinking, here we go again with DJ.
Right.
So hold out for me, Grace. I'm still here, but then I got kicked off. I'm like, oh Lord.
I don't know who this person is.
You got another comment?
Yeah, but this is on, some of them are on Facebook, some of them
Facebook and some.
are on
Yeah,
YouTube.
I can't see the ones on Facebook because I'm only using, I think, YouTube right now. I don't know.
I can't even see. Um, did I do it? Wait, did I do it right? Can you see the comment on the stage?
I haven't seen anything pop up yet. Did you try writing something?
I did. I'm trying to see if I could put
Well,
the.
why don't you just see if somebody else said something? Can you see the other comments?
I see. Let's see. Deanna said, "Well said," on YouTube. Um, Natalia said, "Keep praying."
Mm.
Some
Oh, yeah,
mothers
now I see that one.
doing on their weird stuff. They brainwashed my girls to make sure I'm not the mom. My kids were 20 and
Oh, yeah.
brainwashed.
That
And
happened with my youngest, even to this day, when they still let us see him every now and then. The last time we saw him was in October for his birthday. And about a year and a half or so into our case is when I came across the gut wrenching aspect of finding out that not only were they referring to themselves as mom and dad, but then when our case closed later that next summer, 2 years in, and they were going to get to adopt, they made it very clear that we were not to call ourselves mom and dad, and we are known as bios, like
right,
biological.
bio
I'm
parents.
like, God,
Yeah.
that sounds like we're some kind of like disease or something. Like, oh, that's your bio. Like, what? And it really hurt me the most to know that every time looking back now, though, I always refer to myself, to my youngest, as like, if I'm doing something with him, I'll be like, oh, here, mama help, or mama will
Right.
do, or bring it
Right.
to mama. But now that I think about it, every time I would say that and think I'm referencing myself, my
They
poor
would think
kid was
it's
probably
him.
thinking I'm
The
referencing
foster parent.
her.
Yep.
And that's the last
Exactly.
person I would want to bring up. But now it just really made me upset to think, man, all those times when I'm like, here, mama will help you. And he's probably thinking, well, where is that other person that is probably not? And it's just so sickening, to think that that wasn't even to a point where they thought that they would get to adopt him. I still could have technically gotten him back home, but they were already confusing the poor kid, but
Well, Deidre, we got a few comments. I have somebody that
oh,
says, Ellie Story, Cleveland County, Oklahoma here. My granddaughter was medically misdiagnosed with non-accidental head trauma shaken baby syndrome at OKC Children's Hospital in December of 22. She was just 5 weeks old. I did not understand at the time. She did not even meet the criteria for such a diagnosis. DHS and CPS took custody of her immediately and pushed for a TPR and adoption. This was before they even went to trial. My daughter's court-appointed attorney told me we were guilty for the very first time we met him. During the trial, the child abuse expert neurosurgeon said that the baby's injuries were worse than that if she'd been thrown from a three-story building. Excuse me, but that if that were true, she'd be gone. She had a small brain bleed and seizures, which were controlled with medication. She was in the hospital around 5 days to monitor the seizures. Once out of the hospital, you never would have known anything had happened. My granddaughter behaved as if she did before she ever had a seizure. The attorney told my daughter that the jury believed that doctor, he didn't even argue against the doctor's statement. And if she didn't relinquish her parental rights, she would never be a mother. She was definitely manipulated into signing. The caseworker lied to all of our kinship options, telling them that my granddaughter would have had extensive medical bills for the rest of her life. They denied me my right to due process and said that they would not allow me to have custody because the baby lived in my home when she was abused and that I failed to protect her. I hired an attorney of my own to adopt my granddaughter and am currently awaiting the answer from the appellate court. The current foster parents are trying to also adopt her, and they will not send pics or updates or anything. I will never stop fighting for my children and grandchildren. I will never stop fighting for all of our children in this nightmare of a system that is legally kidnapping our children for profit. There was an investigation and there were no criminal charges. I was not investigated that I know of.
That's just kind of like a horrific example of what we kind of all go through, but that one to the extreme. But funny that she says that story because I just read yesterday and I had bookmarked it, but because I'm watching this or I'm doing this show on my phone, I don't want to like mess anything up. But I
Right.
just read a similar story of a child being born and having complications during the birth to where the baby was stuck in the birth canal for I think 12 hours and caused a lot
I
of
heard that
bruising
same
and
thing. Right.
had to have this emergency C-section. Well, then fast forward a couple months, the baby was, I don't know, making some kind of gesture to where the parents were concerned. They brought her into the hospital. They did all these checks. They said that she was fine, but then they wanted to do X-rays and MRIs to where then they saw a brain bleed and bruises on her ribs that were already healing. Well, come to find out when everything filed out to the end, and they had three medical experts come and testify that proved all these injuries were due to the trauma that the baby went through during the 12 hours of being stuck in the birth canal. But they immediately ripped that baby from the parents. They were told to leave the hospital and it was placed into foster care. And I think they were almost like going to be losing their rights because they were, looked at as abusing their child. And it was weird how the story read because it said basically somebody that came in and read the x-rays and the MRIs that have no knowledge of the baby or the birth, meaning the traumatic birth that it went through, had no knowledge of that. So within that short amount of time, this person that could only read x-rays was able to basically say, no, these are caused from abuse, and therefore the parents are told to leave and their child's basically taken from them. And it's just like, wow, how things are done so like fast, 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 but not even looking at all the possibilities before they do what they do. I mean, they go to the extreme so fast, but yet they're supposed to have the best interest of the child in their, top, whatever you want to call it. But at the end of the day, we know it's all for one thing, and that's the sad thing. I was just thinking the other day about how, abortions are pretty much banned anywhere and everywhere now, right? It's
Right.
like you think about it. If you link it to CPS, it only makes sense then because they want all these extra kids floating around just so that
Yep.
they can right away
That
take
money.
them.
Yep.
I mean, it's just sad to think that way, but really, I mean, that's kind of like what I'm thinking it all entails to, because it's more money for these people. And it's really sad because if you would really look at the families that need the children maybe to be removed temporarily and give the parents, the resources that they need to better themselves for whatever the allegation might be at hand, if it's homelessness, help them with housing, if it's, whatever it is, instead of taking all this money that they're getting from the federal government and giving it to foster agencies and to their agency, why can't they actually give it to the parents and keep
Are
the
you allowed to
families
have someone
together?
call in? We have somebody that wants to call in. Can they call into the show?
I don't know. Grace can answer that question. Grace?
I have somebody who is this Johnny X-Ray trying to call in.
Yeah, let's see. Grace, can you hear us?
Grace.
Maybe not.
Okay, I don't know how you get somebody to call in.
I know Bob does it all the time, but I think he has a
Yes.
separate number for it.
Oh,
Yeah, we'll have to get that. We'll have to get it. Oh, Grace said yes if you have an available number to use to call in. I don't know how to do that.
sure.
Do you have a second line?
Yep.
And then you put them on speaker, I think is what you do. So if you want to give that person here, Grace is commenting in the private chat. Separate phone. Yeah. So if you have a separate phone that they can call you on and you can put it on speaker and then that person can talk.
Let's see. Let me see if I can do that. Hmm.
But then would you be giving that number out to everybody watching the show?
That's fine. It's not
Oh,
number.
okay.
It's a It's a digits number.
Grace said something else. That you can give away your number. Yeah.
Okay. 347-569-2037.
So whoever wanted to call in, that number that she just gave out, if you want to call it, and then hopefully Akiva will answer and put you on speaker, and we can have you on the show then.
Let's see. So, okay, just in case. So I guess next time we could put the number up because I didn't know how to do it.
Yeah. Well, let's see if you get a phone call. Maybe you want to repeat it one more time. I don't know. Maybe they weren't ready.
It is 347-569-2037.
What did the person say? They just said they wanted to call in.
They said, I will touch, this is, again, Johnny X-Ray. I will touch base with you. I would like to share a story. Sure, we would love to hear your story.
Yes. Grace.
Sure, 347-569-2037.
Okay, Grace hasn't put it up. She said call in now. Call in right now, and she put up your phone number.
Okay.
So people can see that. Well, in the
Oh,
meantime,
look.
there you go.
Hi, you're on. Are you a CPS victim like me? With Deidre and
Yes, I
Akima.
am.
Hi, how are you? Is this X-Ray?
Yes, ma'am. Calling from I'm in Virginia right now, but my case is out of California, out of Napa Valley.
Okay.
All right. And
There,
go
Go
ahead.
ahead, continue.
go ahead. So there's if you go to Google and you type in Napa FBI investigation and DOJ, it gives a little bit of narrative to the story of the chaos that's going on right now in Napa County, to include my child welfare services issue.
Okay. You want to elaborate?
Is your case still open?
Sure. Yes, that's actually a dissolution of marriage with a CPS worker, but the CPS worker was able to be hired on as a worker for the county of Napa, and they didn't do a background check, a proper background check, and didn't realize that she had her child taken away from her for her conduct in another county in California. And that conduct was pretty severe. It led to the permanent removal of her rights. And when I went into family court in Napa, I went to CPS, and because she was an employee for them, they decided to not safeguard my child and deviate from the rules that are set forth
Did we lose him?
with the the ombudsman in the state of California as a measure to try to hide everything as opposed to protecting my child. There was clear and imminent danger, and they were supposed to roll it over to an adjacent county, and they failed to do so. The director of Child Welfare Services, which is Veronica Piper Jefferson, and the supervisor, Alexis Blossmeyer, once I discovered that they were violating the ethics, I reached out to the ombudsman again, and they said we need to speak to the director and demand that they roll it over to an adjacent county. And once I did that, those two people actually did roll it over to Sonoma County, an adjacent county, but then they shut them down when that county was willing to move forward. I had photographic evidence, I had like DOJ reports, everything. It was significant. And I wasn't asking for them to like fire my spouse or anything, but some help was needed. I asked for them if there was any help that could be afforded, or if they could step in to intercede on my child's behalf. And instead, they wanted to do the circle the wagons. And so I was expected to go into court with no legal representation, and it turned into this chaotic nightmare. That's now it's just completely unraveled in Napa County, and it has to do, unfortunately, with homicide and kidnappings in San Diego, California. From my previous marriage, my first wife's father was kidnapped and unalived in San Diego. I was in the military at the time, and my spouse then, her father was engaged in activity he should have been, and he paid the price for it, which they ended up having to move to the other side of the country. And when I married my new wife, I was unaware that what she had lost her parental rights for was she was engaged in activity with the very people responsible for my first wife's father's demise, I guess you could say. And so that's why they kind of went into self-protection mode, because she was taking my son down into areas that these people still wield power in Tijuana and Mexicali. And so that was what I asked for them to intercede on my behalf with, was to stop my child from being taken down into these areas. And so this is all well documented. It's public information with the county of Napa and with the Court of Appeals. And I mean, it turned into a point where they said that me going to Child Welfare Services only because my spouse works for Child Welfare Services, that was a violation of the DVPA. And I was taken aback. I was shocked. And so a judge put an order in place forbidding my child from being taken into Mexico for his safety. And then that judge retired, and another judge, Joseph Solga, stepped in, and he actually took away all my parental rights because I went to Child Welfare Services and gave him over to my spouse, who works for Child Welfare Services. And so this major battle after that, it's been ever since March the 15th. I've been fighting nonstop against the judge and CPS, the Napa County District Attorney. The conflict of interest is my spouse, who works for the county, had her child taken away because of her conduct that they did not effectively find or speak out. Once they found out that she was taking my son down into dangerous places, they didn't want it. They were like trying to hide it. And so I went to the FBI. I went to the Inspector General, the Attorney General. There's a congressional inquiry. Everything's well documented. I have the case number. If anybody wants to take a gander at it, it's on at the California Court of Appeals.
So where are you at as of right now, like with your case? Is it closed, like in family court? Is it only a criminal proceeding going on? Like where's the basis of this information? Like, where does it stand as of right now?
It's both right now. So we're still in the middle of the divorce proceedings, and there's two consolidated cases tethered to that, and now they have preferred a criminal charge against me. As a result of that, the district attorney, when I filed a complaint against them with the FBI, they immediately preferred action. And it's crazy what I'm dealing with.
You want to do me a favor and give me that case number?
Sure. So the case number in Napa, the district court case number is 22FL000257, and the Court of Appeals number, which has all the stuff, is in the First Appellate District, and it's A170478.
A170478.
Yes, ma'am. And that's the
Court of Appeals.
the first appellate district in California. I filed an appeal, and I'm filing federal action. I filed for injunctive relief. There is a congressional inquiry. That's why I'm in Virginia. I had came to follow up on the congressional inquiry put forward before Mike Thompson's office in Napa to request a situation report from the Assistant U.S. Attorney General's office here, based off of the FBI inquiry. And when I got that's all in that file too. You'll see it. It's when I got to DC on the first day after going to the DOJ in that office, I was struck by a drunk driver, so I had to return to California to get another vehicle. And I'm here on the East Coast fighting for my son's safety and my rights enthusiastically right now. It's pretty crazy.
Okay, so now you're saying that you're in Virginia. So Virginia has definitely a bunch of different laws, especially because they're Commonwealth. So as of right now, if you're saying where is your son living right now?
He's in Napa.
So you're fighting a case from the East Coast to the West Coast. So you left the West Coast to come to the East Coast when your son is still on the West Coast.
Yes, ma'am. I sat down with the duty officer in San Francisco at the FBI building there, and they advised that I should move. Because of the homicides and the relative, it's a really complicated circumstance. So the people that are responsible for the unaliving of my first wife's father is who my now spouse that I'm in this disillusioned marriage with. She was, the DOJ report is on that thing that I gave you. She was arrested for conducting business on behalf of the cartel that was responsible for my first wife's father's murder. And so that became an issue in these divorce proceedings, which all the confidentiality relative to that case, and it all came out into this divorce. They intentionally put all this information relative to the kidnapping and murder of my first wife's father into these proceedings.
So when was the dissolution of your marriage? What year was that? When was the year that you guys were divorced?
I filed for divorce in March of 2022.
Okay. So is there anything else you want us to know?
Journalist on YouTube right now and on Facebook. It's called California Families Rise. And that journalist did all the independent research. She went to the Court of Appeals and researched this. And there's an interview that I did with her. And there's another interview going to come out of the Midwest called The Deep Dive.
Do you have private counsel?
It's a really crazy circumstance.
Do you have representation? Do you have retained representation? Do you have your own counsel?
I do not. I'm a pro se litigant, not by choice. In California, there's a rule, family code law called 2030, and what that is the protection is supposed to be for any parents.
But that does not hold that statute in the Commonwealth of Virginia. And because you are fighting a case from coast to coast pro se, that is not going to work in your favor. Sorry.
Well, no, I moved here, but the case is still. So in Napa, you can attend via Zoom.
Right, so but you still are responsible for the state that you are residing in and having mail sent to you in. So based on the Commonwealth of Virginia having their own statute of laws themselves, just based under that Commonwealth, you as the person residing in that state have to conform to those laws.
Yeah, but the case, the family law dissolution is out of California. The house, the custody, it's in California, and the request for pendiente lite was made at the outset of the dissolution.
In California.
And so they violated it back then. That's the standard of review is de novo at the Court of Appeals right now, because in California it's mandatory that the judges, if there's a disparity of income, if the FL 150 is filed and that the FL 300 is submitted, that initiates the mandate for the court to issue the fees if there's a disparity and there's a means to pay for it. And so that was made quite some time ago. So I went through about maybe 30 hearings without any attorney. I kept begging. I have PTSD. I have ADA. I made the ADA request, everything, and they just kept pressing it aside. And so that's what you'll see in the court of appeal record is the standard of review is de novo, because in California, if you make those requests and the disparity is validated, the discretion is removed from the arbiters that they must issue pendiente lite.
So
You're using a lot of legal talk between the both of you. And as much as I'm trying to follow along,
I'm just a
no,
father.
and
I've had
I
to
appreciate it. No, but you're just kind of
I've
probably
sliced
losing a lot of us. Yes.
attorney's fees. The other individual makes about $179,000 a year. I don't, and so she has an attorney. I don't, and she also testifies in the court on their behalf, so that they can impose from the bench. So they can't really let her lose, or whenever I cite that there's perjury or fraud on the court, they look right past it because they don't want to impose things like the sober link or the restricted
Can I interrupt you and ask you a question?
Good if they had a social worker with that kind of stuff going down, but
have you reached out to Mr. Davis in any way?
I know, that's what I was gonna say.
Have you heard Attorney Vincent Davis that specializes in things like this?
No, I haven't.
Wow.
Could you put
Out of all of your research and all of your knowledge, you have not come across Mr. Vince Davis in Southern California here? This is who we're doing the show under his platform.
Yes, he's the best.
Oh, I've been
He,
I've been on, like, if you go to that California Family Rides on YouTube, you'll see the interview. I've been doing my darndest to reach out and help.
okay, well, why don't you look a little bit further into Mr. Davis here?
A YouTube channel. I've been doing my very best.
Sir, do you see the number that's posted on the screen here? You want to reach out and give Mr. Davis a call, make yourself an appointment to have a consultation with Mr. Davis?
Can you read it out loud to me? I can't see because I don't have my glasses on me.
DJ, you want to read the number from?
Yeah, it's 888-888-6582. And you can just say that you were a guest on this show tonight and that we advised you to call into the office and see if you can get maybe a 30-minute consultation with Mr. Davis. And also in the meantime, if you want to go on to his actual YouTube channel here and watch a lot of his videos, you would be, oh my gosh, amazed at the knowledge. He's been doing this for over 35 years. And I swear that he's the best of the best in the nation. I mean, honestly.
Right.
And I'm surprised that you haven't come across him already with all of, the years that you've been doing.
Information,
Yeah, exactly. But maybe he can give you some insight on helping you. Yes, Mr. Vincent Davis, W. Davis. Yeah.
Yes, I definitely will.
And he's right here based out of Southern California.
I'm actually going to look that up after the show is over. That way I could just get some pointers and see exactly where to start from. And then I'll, me and Deidre we'll have our little huddle right there and figure some things out and let Mr. Davis know kind of what's going on.
Yeah, it's going to blow your mind because after I left the Army, I volunteered to the Department of Justice. It's all in that file. That's why I'm on the East Coast. The FBI told me to move for safety because of everything going on there. After I left the Army, I volunteered in 2008 to 2010 to the DOJ to seek out justice on behalf of the victims, to include my father. And that's what came out in these proceedings. That attorney, I had no attorney. The other attorney was demanding. They have stuff that's not supposed to be in the court. I kept asking to go in camera, which means you go in judge's quarters. I asked, you'll see it in the minutes when you go to look at the file, that I asked for confidentiality, that this is relative to some very dangerous stuff, and they just completely pressed it aside. So I filed 3 complaints with the Commission for Judicial Performance, the Attorney General, the Inspector General. It's like, it's one heck of a case, and I need to get it out there as a means to protect my rights, because I've done everything I can at this point. So I just made the decision to turn and face everything head on.
Sir,
but can I say something that you mentioned?
We're coming up on our 10-minute mark, sir.
Yeah, real quick, though, I wanted to stop you earlier.
Or you want to save him for Mr. Davis?
I will save him for Mr. Davis. I appreciate you for pointing me in the right direction. Any and all help. I will actually furnish my phone number to this number. I'll text it if you have any questions, or I can send you relative proof to the phone if you need any
that would
more.
be cool. Thank you.
But can I say one last thing before you go? I think,
Miss Deidre's talking to you, hon. Miss Deidre's talking to
yeah,
you.
one last thing before you go. I think the biggest highlight in your story that um, I think is the main cause of all of this that no one really likes to look at is, didn't you mention the mother is a worker of the actual like
Yes.
CPS, right? Okay, that's your problem right there.
Yep, big
We're
problem
going to
right there.
protect her to
That's
the bitter
problem.
end.
Instead of protecting my son, they
Oh,
realized the
exactly.
liability because they
Yep.
should have caught all this, and I never asked them. I asked to deal with this behind closed doors. I said, hey, my spouse needs help, but she's taking my son into imminent danger. I need you guys to do something. That's the county supervisor that's under investigation by the. I have everything in writing.
No, but yeah, I was just trying to point that out, though. So you're going to need someone like Mr. Davis if you really want a chance at getting your son back. Otherwise, I hate to say it, but they're going to protect their own till the very end, and that's just the sick part of it all. Is they don't care about these kids. They care about the paycheck, and yeah.
Yes, ma'am. I thank both of y'all. Thank you for everything you're doing. We're grassroots of a movement of parents that are suffering all over the country, and thank you for what you do.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Have a good night.
You too. Have a good night.
And reach out to Mr. Davis. Don't forget.
Do I have a lag, Akima? Do I have like a lag in our? Because I feel like I start to talk, but like it doesn't, I think, come out at the same time. I don't know. Maybe it's me.
But we did have somebody that said, his name is Keith D. Burks Kane. He said, just had a TPR trial. And when I tell you it was demonic, they said what they did and how they did it. My appointed attorney talked a good game. But when trial started, his body was there and he was like an infant in the courtroom.
No, I'm not surprised. It's like we all like to say they're court appointed pretenders. Like they're not an attorney on your behalf at all. Really, they're just there for the paycheck and the other millions of cases that they have. And it's really sad because, like I mentioned in the beginning of the show, it's like the knowledge that you need to have in order to even find out what's going on in your kind of situation. It doesn't come until the end, when usually it's all too late to do what you could have done so easily or more easily in the beginning. And now everyone is usually like at their TPR hearing realizing what is now about to happen, and they're like, oh, wait a minute here, they're really going to take my kid,
right?
And they're like, now I need to like straggle and do everything that Mr. Davis tries to say that you need to be doing in the beginning, but no one realizes the severity of what's really going on. But hey, I know we have 5 minutes left, but with my kids calling earlier and me not being able to call back,
listen,
part of me a little worries because it's not the norm. So if it's okay to go ahead and end now, and then again, stress to everybody to come on our show. Yeah. If you want to come in and be a guest with us, again, call the number on the bottom of the screen, 888-888-6582. And we will be back here next Wednesday.
Yes.
At Wednesday at 5 p.m.
They are worth it.
Okay, Akima, thank you.
No problem, Deidre. See you.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Good night.
Hi, I'm attorney Vincent Davis, and I've been fighting CPS for over 35 years. Through my years of experience, I've gained invaluable insights that I'm ready to share with you. If you're a parent or a caregiver or a relative, we need to talk. I'm offering a new opportunity for you to speak with me on a one-on-one basis. Ask me any questions, and I'll provide you with the insight you need to take steps in your CPS case. Members get everything they need to gain confidence and the knowledge that they need to support necessary to truly fight back. And as a special thank you for attending, I have a special offer just for you. Don't miss out. Join us, and let's take that next step together. I'll see you at the question and answer event.